Hey everyone, this is Demi. So this video is going to be about teas. I'm gonna be talking about the different types of teas, different ways of processing the tea plant, and then I'm gonna be talking about tea shopping and tea storage. I'm gonna give you some tips how to shop for the best tea and how to store your tea so it remains fresh for a longer time. And finally, I'm gonna be talking about tea brewing, how to make the tea that tastes and smells and looks the best. Okay, so let's start by talking about the different tea types. As you may have heard, or as you may know, there are different types of teas. You may have probably heard about green tea or black tea or even white tea. And if you are a tea nerd or tea lover like me, you may have heard about yellow tea or oolong or pu'er. And I'm gonna be talking about these different types of tea later in the video, but for now we can just say that there are plenty of different tea types that differ in the way they look, in their aroma and in their taste, but they all come from the same tea plant that is called Camellia sinensis. So there isn't any specific plant for green tea or for black tea. All of them come from the same plant. But what makes the difference is how is the tea plant processed, and specifically the part of the tea plant that is used for making tea are the leaves. So the question is, how are the tea leaves processed? To a certain degree, the taste and aroma of the tea can also be influenced by the types of leaves that you are using. So, for example, if you are using the very tip leaves of the tea plant, the ones that are at the very top of the tea plant, then the tea is going to be tasting just a little bit differently than when you are using some of the other leaves from the plant, some of the lower leaves. But the position and the types of leaves that you are using influences a little bit more the quality of the tea rather than the type of the tea. What actually influences the different types of tea, is the process of oxidation. Oxidation is a part of processing the tea plant, and this part of the process, the oxidation part, is probably the most important. Okay, now let's have a look at this chart that shows the different types of teas and how they are processed differently. Okay, now let's have a look at this chart that shows the different types of tea and how they are processed differently. At the very top, you can see the amount of oxidation going from the smallest to the highest in green, white, yellow, long, black, and dark tea, where is the highest level of oxidation. So, as you can see from the arrow, the level of oxidation goes from the smallest on the left to the greatest on the right. Oxidation is, in a very simplified terms, what happens when a material is exposed to oxygen and fresh air. It is what happens to a cut apple when you leave it outside of the fridge, or to an iron rod that is left outside. The material somehow loses its freshness, and the same thing happens with tea leaves when you leave them be in the air after plucking them from the tea plant. They lose their freshness, they get more creased and become darker and more brownish, and their taste is a little less grassy or vegetal and more rich and fruitier. So green tea is the least oxidized. The process of oxidation is halted by extreme heat, either by steam, which is done in Japanese green teas such as sencha, or by pan roasting, which is done in Chinese green teas such as lung jing or dragonwell. And in this way the green tea remains green and fresh forever. The taste of the green tea is very fresh, almost grassy, and it has a sort of a astringent note to it. White and yellow teas are a tiny bit more oxidized, but still very little. Some comparison charts actually put white teas before green tea in terms of oxidation, but that is incorrect. White tea is just the least processed tea. The leaves are left to be dried by sun, which doesn't promote the oxidation but also doesn't stop it. So that's why it's called dried tea. Yellow teas are a little bit of a mystery. No one really knows how they are made precisely, but it is supposed that the process involves intervals of roasting the tea to stop the oxidation and then wrapping the tea in some kind of paper or cloth to promote the oxidation. And then the process continues and the tea is fried again and wrapped again, and this goes for several days. The taste of white tea is very subtle or even floral, and I never had yellow tea, but it is supposed to taste a little bit like white tea, just a little bit more smooth or sweet. Anyway, it is supposed to be a very delicate taste, and yellow tea is regarded as one of the best, most exclusive teas on the market. Okay, now oolongs are half oxidized. Once the leaves are harvested, they are left to wither, and then the process of oxidation is boosted by rolling and bruising the leaves, and then the process of oxidation is stopped midway through frying. This gives the leaves somewhat blue-green color, somewhere between green tea and black tea, and that is why oolongs are sometimes called blue or blue-green. That is why I put this color on the chart. Black teas are fully oxidized. The process of withering and bruising and rolling is not stopped, and this lends the tea the full, rich, bold taste of a black tea. Some types of black teas, such as Darjeeling and high mountain teas, are considered to be oolongs because they are also not fully oxidized, and you can even notice that in their taste and aroma because they truly taste a little bit more like oolongs than black teas. And finally, pu'er teas. These are not only fully oxidized but also fermented, which means exposed to bacteria or yeast, and it is the same process that takes place during the production of yogurt, kimchi, wine, and beer. After aging and fermenting in huge piles, the leaves are compressed into little cakes that can actually develop a better taste as they age. And this gives them a really interesting taste, and to some even a little bit weird taste. It's very deep and robust, and some describe it as earthy or woody. For me, it somehow reminds me of graveyard, maybe because of the slightly rotten and molded aged taste. In any way, I find the smell and taste to be very mystical. And now that we have talked about the different types of tea, let's talk about what you need to know when you shop for tea. Apart from having different types of tea, tea also varies in the terms of quality. Generally, we have 4 tea grades: whole leaf, broken leaf, fannings, and dust. The last 2 or 3, dust, fannings, and to some degree also broken leaf, are the lowest quality. It's a tea broken down to the smallest particles, and it's used mainly for tea bags. The highest quality tea is made from whole leaves, and even within this category of whole leaf teas, there are lots of subcategories and grades. Basically, the quality rises with the wholeness or openness of leaf and with the presence of tips, which are the youngest, newest leaves of the tea plant. They are usually at the very top of the tea plant, and if you have tips in your tea, it usually means it's a very good tea. The grades of whole leaf tea are expressed in acronyms, and you can say basically that the longer the acronym, the better the tea. For example, one of the highest quality teas is marked as FTGFOP, which stands for fine, tippy, golden, flowery, orange pekoe. But some people translate it as far too good for other people. So that's a good way to remember which acronym stands for the highest quality tea. The grading system usually applies to black teas. The grading of green teas is much more complicated, and I'm not gonna get into that. What you can remember is that the more whole the tea leaf is and the more tips are included, the better the tea. Now, let's imagine that you have bought a good quality tea that you want to enjoy. In order to do that, you have to ensure that the tea retains its quality, mainly its aroma, for a long time. And here, packaging is vital. The tea needs to be protected against sunlight, air, humidity, heat, and odor. So the container for the tea should not be transparent, for example made out of glass, and ideally it should be as airtight as possible. So do not use any breathable materials such as paper. It is also helpful to fill up the container as much as you can so there is as little space for the air as possible. Bear in mind that the teas that are the least oxidized, such as green, white, yellow, and to some degree also oolongs and Darjeelings, are the most sensitive and most prone to get damaged by air, sunlight, and so on. The black teas are a little bit less sensitive, and airs can actually get even better. They age a little bit like wine, so just make sure you keep them from odors. I personally use two types of packaging. The first type is this Japanese container. They are a little bit hard to find, but they are really worth it, since apart from looking very fancy and elegant, they are very practical. Because they are not transparent, they protect the tea from sunlight, and they also have a double lid. As you can see, there is a second lid underneath the first one that protects the tea from air. As you can see, once we remove the second lid, the tea is fully protected and is kept fresh for a long time. Let's close it down and align the lid with the rest of the container. So these are the Japanese containers. Now the second type of packaging that I like to use are the tin foiled bags. So these are usually the ones that your tea comes in when you order it from a tea shop or a tea manufacturer, and these are actually one of the best packaging that you can get for your tea. They are airtight, they have an resealable zip on the top, so once you tear off the top part of the package, you can reseal it again, which will keep your tea fresh for a lot longer. So, as you can see, when we look inside the package, there is the resealable lid, and when you close it, make sure you press out as much of air as possible, so there is not a lot of air left in the bag, and then reseal it again. And apart from the resealable zip, the package is very good because the tin foil material protects the tea from sunlight. Okay, so now let's have a look at some of these containers. And finally, once you have selected and bought your tea and you have properly stored it at your home, it's time to brew it. So let's have a look at how to brew different types of tea. The first type of tea we are going to have a look at is green. Specifically, I'm going to be brewing my favorite type of green tea, Japanese sencha. This is how I do it. I prepare 2 teapots. One of them can be any kind of jug, even just a measuring jug. I start off by warming up one of the teapots. This one will be used for brewing the tea, but not for the finished tea. So I use the less fancy teapot or jug for this. I pour hot water into it, and then I pour the water into the second teapot. Then I put the loose green tea into the first teapot. The warmth of the teapot should open up the leaves and help to release its aroma a little bit. I wait until the water temperature in the second teapot drops to around 70 degrees Celsius. If you don't have a thermometer, just let the teapot with the hot water stay about 3 minutes, but definitely don't brew green tea in boiling hot water. It would ruin its taste. So I pour the water into the first teapot and let it brew for about 2 to 3 minutes, not longer. Since I have preheated the teapot, the temperature of the water should stay the same the whole time and not get colder. There is some debate over what kind of water to use for making tea. In my opinion, the best tea is made from spring bottled water or filtered water. And I have the worst experience with tap water, which is usually too hard and makes the tea taste a bit metallic. And while I wait until the tea is brewed, I love to watch it. I love to watch the tea leaves floating in the teapot, especially when it's made out of glass, because then it looks like you are looking into some kind of underwater world. It looks like some kind of underwater jungle. So, after 2 or 3 minutes, I pour the tea over a strainer into the second teapot. The resultant tea has a green yellowish color. Sencha can sometimes have a neon tint to it, and the taste is wonderful. Very fresh, astringent, and even grassy, and just really green. What I like to do with green teas is that I like to make multiple, usually 2 or 3 infusions from one batch of leaves, and sometimes the second infusions taste even better. The next type of tea we are gonna be making is Darjeeling. Now, Darjeeling is listed officially under black teas, but as we have discussed earlier, it is technically an oolong, since it's not fully oxidized. And I'm making Darjeeling the same way I would be making any oolong. Once again, I'm using 2 teapots. I'm starting by warming up one of the teapots, putting the loose tea leaves in the teapot, and then pour them over with hot but not boiling water. The water should have around 80 degrees Celsius, which can be achieved just by letting the kettle stay for about 1 or 2 minutes after boiling. Another issue that is frequently discussed among tea lovers is the usage of tea infusers. As you can see, I'm not using an infuser, and instead I brew the tea separately. The reason is that I found out that tea from infuser really doesn't taste that good. It is because it doesn't allow the leaves to fully open. So, if I am using an infuser, I make sure to put just a small portion of leaves so they have more space. I brew the Darjeeling tea for around 2 to 3 minutes, just like green tea. You can brew it for a little bit longer, but for my taste, 2 to 3 minutes is the best time. And finally, I pour the finished tea over the tea strainer into the second teapot. Darjeeling is often called the champagne of teas for its delicate taste. The finished tea should have a golden amber color, and the taste and aroma can be best described as floral as opposed to grassy aroma of green teas and fruity aroma of black teas. The next tea I'm going to brew is Assam. Specifically, it's a blend of Assam teas called Ostfriesen tea. Once again, I'm brewing the tea separately in a warmed up teapot. And as with all the teas I'm using, the ratio 1 teaspoon of tea leaves per cup. With black teas, I'm using freshly boiled water, no need to cool it down. So, after pouring the boiling water over the tea leaves, I let brew for about 4 minutes, slightly longer than green or oolong teas, but not a lot longer. To be quite honest, I usually prefer the brewing time that is on the lower end of the recommended times. For me, the shorter the brewing time, the better. The only exception is puer, as we will see later on. And once again, we can admire the hypnotic, moving landscape of the tea infusion. After about 4 minutes, I pour the tea over the strainer to the teapot. And then again from the teapot to the cup. Black tea has a very deep brown reddish color and very rich fruity taste to it. Ostfriesen can be prepared in a very specific way together with candy sugar and cream, but I'm not gonna do it for myself. And finally, I'm going to brew puer. This is a very intriguing tea with a very unique smell, taste and general atmosphere. You can usually buy it in the form of these little pressed cakes. As opposed to the other teas, I usually brew puer in one teapot because I brew it for quite a long time, 5 minutes or even longer. So I just put the pressed cake into the teapot and pour boiling water over it and let it brew for as long as I want. I usually just pour the finished tea over a strainer to a cup. The finished tea has a very dark brown color and very dark taste as well. It's quite unlike all the other teas, probably because it is an aged tea and fermented with bacteria and yeast. It's earthy, maybe slightly smoky. To me it tastes slightly rotten or molded, but in a good way. In any case, it's a good choice if you want to shock somebody in somewhat fancy way. Okay guys, so those were all the teas that I wanted to show you and talk about today. Let me know if you have enjoyed this video and if you ever tried some of these teas and how did you like them. Thank you for watching and have a great time. Bye.